"I'm not staying in a marriage with a predator," my wife said, then handed me divorce papers and a restraining order, all based on her sister's lies. I stood there frozen. My wife Andrea and I have been married for 3 years, together for 6. We bought our house 2 years ago, and honestly, life has been pretty good. Until her sister Stacy moved in temporarily 8 months ago. Stacy is 23 and has always been the family baby. She was sickly as a kid, multiple hospitalizations, almost died from pneumonia when she was 7, chronic health issues. Her whole family treats her like she's made of glass. Stacy moved in because she needed time to figure things out after dropping out of college. At first, I didn't mind. Family helps family, right? But 8 months later, she shows no signs of leaving. No job applications, no apartment hunting, no timeline. But here's what's been eating at me. Stacy has made our house HER house. She's redecorated the guest room completely. She has friends over constantly. She eats our food, uses our Netflix, treats me like the unwelcome guest in my own home. When I work from home, she's loud on the phone in the next room. When I ask for quiet, Andrea tells me to be more understanding of what Stacy's going through. I've tried talking to Andrea about setting a timeline for Stacy to move out. Every conversation ends with me being made to feel like an asshole for not being supportive enough. She's still recovering from her last episode. She needs stability right now. We have the space. But last week, I noticed Stacy doing this weird thing where she'd get really quiet when I walked into a room, then immediately perk up when Andrea appeared. She started making these little comments like, "Oh, Matthew's home," in this tone I couldn't quite place. When Andrea would leave for work, Stacy would suddenly find reasons to be wherever I was. Kitchen when I'm making coffee, living room when I'm watching TV. Nothing obvious enough to call out, but enough to make me uncomfortable. So last Sunday, we're having dinner with Andrea's parents and her other sister Claire. Normal family dinner, nothing unusual. We're talking about Stacy maybe taking some online classes, and I mentioned that it might be good timing for her to look into getting her own place too. That's when Stacy just exploded. She starts crying and says she has something she needs to confess. According to her, I've been pursuing her for months. I've been making inappropriate comments, trying to catch her alone, making her feel uncomfortable. She said she's been trying to protect Andrea from the truth, but she can't live with the guilt anymore. I'm sitting there with my mouth open like a fish. I have never, and I mean never, done anything even remotely like what she described. I tried to interrupt to ask what the hell she was talking about, but her parents immediately jumped to her defense. She had details. Specific dates, times, quotes. According to her, I told her she was more attractive than Andrea 2 weeks ago in the kitchen. I allegedly cornered her in the laundry room and told her I'd been thinking about her. I supposedly texted her inappropriate messages that she couldn't show because she deleted them out of shame. The whole table turned on me instantly. Andrea's dad called me a predator. Her mom started crying about how they trusted me with their baby girl. Claire called me disgusting. And Andrea just sat there staring at me like she'd never seen me before. I tried to defend myself, but every word out of my mouth just made me look more guilty. Andrea hasn't spoken to me since. She told me to pack a bag and stay at my parents' house until we figure this out. I've been here for a week now, and every text I send gets ignored. When I called, she said she needed time to process this betrayal. I don't know what to do. My wife of 3 years believes I tried to cheat on her with her mentally unstable sister. Our friends are asking questions. I'm pretty sure her family has already started spreading this story. How do you prove something didn't happen? Edit. Some of you are asking about security cameras. We have a Ring doorbell but nothing inside the house. Kicking myself for that now. Update 1. Posted 2 weeks ago, so much has happened since my last post. The confrontation was just the beginning. The day after that dinner, Andrea came to my parents' house. I thought maybe she'd had time to think, maybe she wanted to hear my side. Instead, she handed me divorce papers and a restraining order petition. I'm not staying in a marriage with a predator, especially one who targeted my own sister. Yes, you heard it right, that's what my wife said right to my face. According to the paperwork, I had been systematically stalking and harassing Stacy for months. The petition included a detailed timeline of alleged incidents, complete with specific dates and locations. It painted a picture of me as this predatory monster who was making Stacy's life hell while manipulating my wife. But here's the thing that made my blood run cold. Some of the incidents she described happened on days when I wasn't even home. I checked my work calendar, my credit card statements, everything. When I pointed this out to Andrea, she just stared at me for a long moment. Then she said, "Maybe Stacy got the dates confused. Trauma affects memory." That's when it hit me. This isn't about evidence. This isn't about truth. This is about Andrea choosing to believe her sister over her husband. Facts be damned. After Andrea left, I immediately called a lawyer. His name is David, and he's seen cases like this before. First thing he told me, document everything, every text, every call, every interaction. These accusations can destroy your life even if they're false. He also told me something that changed my perspective entirely. In situations like this, the accuser often shows a pattern of manipulation in other areas of their life. Start looking at the bigger picture. So I did. I started thinking about Stacy's history, really thinking about it for the first time. She's 23 and has never held a job for more than 2 months. Every time she quits or gets fired, there's a story. Sexual harassment from a manager, 3 different jobs. Bullying from coworkers, 2 jobs. Discriminatory treatment because of her health conditions, 4 jobs. Somehow, she's always the victim and someone else is always the predator. She's dropped out of college 3 times. Each time it was because of some traumatic incident, a professor who targeted her, a roommate who made her feel unsafe, a dean who didn't understand her disabilities. Her parents have paid over $80,000 in tuition for degrees she'll never finish. She's burned through friend groups the same way. In the 8 months she's lived with us, I've watched her cycle through at least 4 different social circles. Each group starts as her best friends ever and ends with drama about how they betrayed her or didn't support her when she needed them most. It's textbook, and I fell for it completely. The family dinner where she confessed wasn't spontaneous. She'd been setting the stage for weeks, making me look suspicious by being quiet around me, making little comments to Andrea about feeling uncomfortable but not wanting to cause problems, getting me to push for her to move out so it would look like I was trying to get rid of the evidence. My lawyer and I have been building a case not just for the divorce but for defamation, because this isn't just about my marriage anymore. Word has gotten around our friend group, our neighborhood, my workplace. I've had to have awkward conversations with my boss about why I'm suddenly dealing with personal legal issues. Some of Andrea's friends have blocked me on social media. My reputation is being destroyed. But here's what really gets me. Andrea knows her sister's history. She's bylaid Stacy out of every single crisis I just described. She's made excuses for her, covered for her, enabled her for years. But when it comes to choosing between her sister's word and her husband's character, she chose her sister without hesitation. That tells me everything I need to know about my marriage. I've tried calling Andrea twice. Both times, she let it go to voicemail. I've sent 3 texts asking if we can talk like adults. Radio silence. But according to my friend Josh, she's been posting cryptic shit on Facebook about discovering who people really are and supporting survivors. Survivors. Of what? My imaginary harassment campaign. Meanwhile, Stacy has apparently moved into our master bedroom. Yeah, you read that right. She's posting Instagram stories from what is clearly my bedroom. Pictures of her cozy new space and gratitude posts about family who believe you when you speak your truth. She's not just living in my house anymore, she's taking over my life. But I'm done being the victim here. David has a plan, and it's not just about defending myself. We're going on the offense. See, here's what Stacy didn't count on. I actually know her patterns now, and patterns can be proven. We're subpoenaing her employment records, her academic records, her social media history. We're interviewing her former friends, former roommates, former coworkers. We're building a profile of someone who has made a career out of false accusations and playing the victim. And here's the beautiful part. Her story about me has inconsistencies. Remember how I said some of the incidents happened when I wasn't even home? Yes, that. My phone records, credit card statements, work calendar, and GPS data tell a very different story than Stacy's timeline. On paper, I can prove that her version of events is physically impossible. But the real breakthrough came 3 days ago. Remember Claire, Andrea's other sister? She reached out to me. Apparently, she's been having her own doubts. Not about me necessarily, but about Stacy. Claire told me something that made my blood boil. Stacy has been making similar accusations about Claire's husband for months. Nothing as serious as what she's accused me of, but a pattern of making him uncomfortable, then playing victim when he tries to set boundaries. Claire said she didn't think much of it at first, but after seeing what happened to me, she started connecting dots. I thought he was being paranoid, Claire told me. But now I'm wondering if she's been testing the waters, seeing how far she could push before making bigger accusations. Claire is scared to speak up because she knows the family will turn on her the same way they turned on me, but she agreed to talk to my lawyer if it comes to that. I'm not the first. I probably won't be the last. This is who Stacy is. The worst part, I think part of Andrea knows this too. But she's so invested in protecting her fragile sister that she's willing to sacrifice our marriage to maintain the illusion. I'm done fighting for someone who won't fight for me. The divorce papers are signed on my end. Let's see how much that house and that lifestyle mean to them when they're paying for it themselves. Edit. Claire reached out after seeing this post. She wants to make it clear she never accused her husband of anything inappropriate. She was describing how Stacy behaves around him. I've edited to make that clearer. A lot of people are asking about the restraining order. My lawyer got it dismissed due to lack of evidence and the timeline inconsistencies. Stacy was not happy about that. Update 2, posted 1 week ago. This week has been absolutely insane, but I finally feel like I'm winning this war. 3 days after my last post, my lawyer and I discovered something that could guarantee me most of our assets. And once Andrea's family found out, they decided to stage an intervention. It was Andrea, her parents, Claire and her husband, and of course, Stacy. They showed up unannounced at my parents' house. My dad answered the door and immediately told them to leave, but I said I'd hear them out. Biggest mistake I've made in this whole situation. Andrea's mom started crying the moment she saw me. She gave this whole speech about how I needed to take responsibility for my actions and get help for my problem. Her dad was more direct. Called me a predator again, told me I was sick for going after someone vulnerable like Stacy. Said the only reason they weren't pressing criminal charges was because Stacy was too traumatized to go through a trial. Claire was quiet mostly, and Andrea, she looked exhausted like she hadn't been sleeping. She kept talking about our marriage vows and how I'd thrown away everything we built together. But Stacy was the star of the show. She sat there crying silently, occasionally dabbing her eyes with tissues. Every time someone supported her, she'd give them this grateful, fragile look. She kept talking about how scared she was of me, how she felt safe for the first time in months, now that I was out of the house. It was honestly a masterclass in manipulation. That's when I decided to stop playing defense and go on the attack. I pulled out my laptop and started showing them the evidence my lawyer and I had compiled. Phone records proving I was out of town during 3 of the alleged incidents. Credit card statements showing I was at work during 2 others. GPS data from my car that contradicted her timeline. Explain this, I said, pointing to the screen. March 15th, Stacy claims I cornered her in our kitchen at 7 p.m. Here's my hotel receipt from Cleveland. Here's my boarding pass. Here's my rental car GPS showing I was 300 miles away. The room went quiet. You could literally hear the clock ticking. Andrea stared at the screen for a long moment, then looked at Stacy. Stacy, honey, maybe you got the dates mixed up. And that's when Stacy made her first mistake. Instead of acting confused or apologetic, she got defensive. Dates don't matter. The intent was the same. He was always looking for opportunities. But these aren't mixed up dates, I said calmly. These are fabricated incidents. You made up specific conversations that couldn't have happened because I wasn't there. Her dad jumped in to defend her. She's been through trauma. Memory issues are normal. Then explain this, I said, pulling up the next piece of evidence. I showed them Stacy's employment history. 7 jobs in 5 years, all ending with harassment or discrimination claims. 3 schools, 4 separate complaints against professors or administrators for inappropriate behavior. Notice a pattern, I asked. In 5 years, Stacy has accused 14 different men of harassment, discrimination, or inappropriate behavior. What are the odds that every single workplace, every single school, every single social group has a predator who specifically targets her? The room was getting uncomfortable. Claire's husband was shifting in his seat. Andrea's parents were exchanging looks, but the nuclear bomb came when I pulled up the financial records my lawyer had subpoenaed. "Did you know," I said, looking directly at Andrea, "that your sister has been stealing from us for 8 months?" I showed them the bank statements. Over $12,000 in unauthorized charges on our joint credit card. DoorDash orders every single day, sometimes multiple times per day, shopping sprees at expensive stores, Uber rides to places I'd never heard of. Andrea went white as a sheet. That can't be right." I handed her the statements. "Look at the dates, Andrea. Look at the amounts. Your sister has been committing credit card fraud for months, and when I started asking questions about money, suddenly I became a sexual predator." Stacy was full on panicking now. "Those charges aren't mine. Someone must have stolen the card. This is just another attempt to make me look bad." "Really?" I said, "because I have the delivery addresses. They're all to our house. I have the Uber pickup locations. They're all from our house. I have security footage from the stores where the card was used." I didn't actually have store footage, but she didn't know that. "This is ridiculous." Stacy stood up, tears streaming down her face. "You're trying to destroy me because I told the truth about you. This is exactly what abusers do. They turn everything around on their victims." But the room had shifted. Claire was staring at her sister with this look of dawning realization. Even Andrea's parents were looking uncertain. Andrea was still staring at the bank statements. "Stacy, these charges. Some of these are for hundreds of dollars. Did you use our card?" "It was an emergency," Stacy said. "I was going to pay it back. I've been in crisis mode." "For 8 months, I asked. "To the tune of $12,000. That's when Claire spoke up for the first time. "Stacy, remember when you told me that Matthew made you uncomfortable last month? You said he was always trying to get you alone." "Yes," Stacy said eagerly, thinking Claire was supporting her. "That was the same week you asked me for money," Claire continued. "You said you were broke and scared and needed help. I gave you $500. Claire looked around the room. "She's been asking all of us for money for months. From me, from our parents. Always with some crisis, always with some emergency." She then turned to Stacy. "If you were stealing from Matthew and Andrea this whole time, why did you need money from us?" The room was silent except for Stacy's crying, which was getting louder and more dramatic by the minute. That's when my phone buzzed with a text from David. Perfect timing. "Actually," I said, "there's more. My lawyer just sent me this." I showed them the report he'd compiled from interviewing Stacy's former coworkers and roommates. 3 different people had told him that Stacy had made false accusations before. A former roommate said Stacy had accused her boyfriend of hitting on her, then admitted months later that she made it up because she wanted the boyfriend to break up with the roommate so she could have the apartment to herself. A former coworker said Stacy had filed a harassment complaint against their manager, then bragged to another employee that she was hoping to get him fired so she could get his position. I watched Stacy's face as I read these accounts out loud. She went from crying to angry to scared to angry again. Stacy lost her shit completely at that point. Started screaming about how everyone was abandoning her, how nobody cared about her trauma, how I was a master manipulator who had turned her whole family against her. But nobody was buying it anymore. The family left shortly after, with Stacy still screaming about betrayal and abandonment. Andrea stayed behind and asked if we could talk privately. We talked for 3 hours. She apologized over and over, begged me to consider working on our marriage. But the damage is already done. She never even asked for my side of the story. She just immediately assumed I was guilty and started planning her exit strategy. That tells me everything I need to know about how she really sees me and how little our marriage actually meant to her. I told her I appreciated the apology, but I was moving forward with the divorce. We can be civil about it, especially now that she knows the truth, but I can't trust her anymore. And without trust, there's no marriage. She cried, but she didn't fight me on it. I think deep down, she knows this is over. The financial stuff is going to be interesting, though. My lawyer says the credit card fraud and the false accusations give me grounds to claim most of our assets. Turns out that when your spouse's family member commits financial crimes against your marriage, it affects asset division. Stacy is apparently staying with some friend now, but according to Claire, she's already wearing out her welcome. Shocking, I know. Final update. Posted 3 days ago. Well, Reddit. While this legal saga still has a few months to run, The important battles are already won. The divorce proceedings are moving forward smoothly. We've reached a comprehensive settlement that gives me 75% of our assets, including the house. While the final decree won't be official for another 8 to 10 weeks, Andrea and I have signed binding separation agreements that give me immediate possession of the house and financial accounts. Andrea finally moved out last week. More importantly, the criminal case against Stacy is proceeding exactly as my lawyer predicted. The restraining order petition was dismissed. The criminal charges for credit card fraud are moving forward. The prosecutor told my lawyer that with $12,000 in documented theft, this is a slam-dunk felony case. Stacy's court-appointed attorney has already approached us about a plea deal, but she's refusing to take it herself even when facing 2 to 3 years in prison. But here's the beautiful part. Even if she takes a plea deal now, she'll have a felony record. Good luck getting jobs or apartments with a conviction for financial fraud. My reputation, meanwhile, is fully restored. Yesterday, I got a call from my company's HR director. Apparently, word about Stacy's criminal charges and the evidence in my favor had reached my workplace. My boss wanted to make sure I knew that everyone was fully supportive and that my reputation was completely intact. 3 of Andrea's friends who had blocked me on social media reached out to apologize. 2 neighbors who had been treating me coldly stopped by to say they were sorry for believing the rumors. But the real story is what happened to Stacy after my last update. Remember how I mentioned she was staying with a friend? Well, that lasted exactly 1 week. According to Claire, who's become my main source of intel on this shit show, Stacy tried to pull the same victim routine with her friend's boyfriend. But the friend, who had been following the drama with our family, told Stacy she was full of shit and kicked her out. So Stacy went back to her parents' house. And this is where things got really interesting. Her parents, who had been enabling her behavior for years, apparently decided they were done. Her dad sat her down and gave her an ultimatum: get a job within 2 weeks and start paying rent or find somewhere else to live. Stacy's response: she accused her own father of making inappropriate comments about her appearance. This was apparently the final straw. Her mom told Stacy that she was sick, that she needed professional help, and that she couldn't keep living in their house if she was going to make accusations against family members. Her family has completely cut her off. She's staying with some online friend now, but that probably won't last long either. Andrea and me had one final conversation before she moved out. She asked me again if there was any chance of reconciliation, and I told her no. She said she understood, but she wanted me to know that she'd learned a lot about herself through this process. She admitted that she'd always known, deep down, that Stacy had problems, but she felt guilty about her sister's childhood health issues and had convinced herself that protecting Stacy was her responsibility. She said she realized she'd been enabling destructive behavior for years, not just with me, but in all of Stacy's relationships. As for the rest of Andrea's family, it's been mixed. Her parents sent me a letter apologizing for how they treated me during the intervention. They said they were embarrassed about their behavior and hoped I could forgive them someday. I appreciated the gesture, even though I don't think I would ever want to talk to them ever again. I'm doing well, really well actually. I'm staying in my house now, and I've been fixing it up the way I always wanted to. I'm building a new life now, and it's a good one. It took almost a year of hell to get here, but I made it.